Good morning, all those who are seeing us or with us in any way. We are put together as a board today uh, because we want to hear from our folks at MES to talk about something that has been put together over a period of time. And it is called the Best Funding and Payment. And in order to do this, we have to listen to and see what we hear from people of MES that are there. And you will see there that we have two of them. One is our chief, and the other is Mr. Hammett, and also Ms. Freckle is there as well. Oh, she's not there. Yeah, she's somewhere. Yes, I see her right there. Okay. So they will all be talking to us with regard to that, so that all of the members of the board will know what this expires, what this means. And let's see. I want to make sure that it is put in the record that there was a quorum of the board. So as long as that's put on, I'm sure it will be. And unless there's anything else to discuss on it before we hear from the folks from MES. Anyone? All right. Well, are we all ready to go? Who's going to start for MES?
Approval of the minutes, Judge?
Do you want to approve the minutes from the last meeting? Would you like to approve the minutes from the last meeting first?
Oh, yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't have that one. I didn't have that one specifically down somewhere or other, but I'm glad you put it on. This is the last meeting of the board, correct? Yeah.
Number 29.
So that has been set off to us. I don't have it right in front of me, but I know it's there. Is there anyone who has any question with regard to those matters before it is put into the tournament, as it might be? Anybody? All right. Well, hearing no one who is objecting, this will then be put into the minutes, as you would, please, Ms. Pam. Okay. So now I think we're set to go. Correct? Are we set, Pamela?
Yes, we are.
Okay, good. So where are we going to start? Mr. Patel or Frederick?
I can start real quickly and then let Hammond go into his discussion. But I just to recap what we talked about at the last board meeting, all of the fiscal 22 best goals were met, with the exception of the DEI sexual harassment training. Our goal there was to train 90% of the employees, and we managed to get 60%, but part of the problem for not meeting, or part of the reason for not meeting that goal, was due to COVID. We were shut down for over a month and could not hold any training whatsoever. And when we did resume training, we were limited to the number that we could have in one room at a time. So that's the reason we weren't able to meet that goal. But every other goal was met.
All right. Do any of the board members have anything to ask with regard to that particular part?
Ellen, could you just take a moment and review with us the goals that were met?
Okay, the first goal was safety, and we were trying to have all our facilities have lockout, tagout programs that were written and approved by the safety department, and then were trained on lockout, tagout. So that goal was completed. The second goal was education. We wanted people to develop a training class to improve the passing rate for certification exams, and that was, if you recall, the Inspire that was given out at the meeting, at the board meeting. That was done. We had staff members obtain professional certifications. We went to professional conferences, and then each group developed a virtual facility tour. The next goal was the diversity and inclusion, and we had training posted to the MES Wave to show staff how to work in Workday and Bonfire. Each group attended one MBE outreach event with our MBE liaison. We increased the number or total dollar amount of contracts issued to small business reserves and MBE primes. Excuse me. Goal 4 was customer and community service. We developed strategies to lower the vacancy rate. Each operating group contributed to a weekly digest to share information about projects and kudos from clients. We updated the MES Wave intranet site. We participated in the Salvation Army Christmas Adopt-A-Family and Toys for Tots, and we identified and shared 4 local volunteer opportunities. Goal 5 was environment, and that's our final goal. Groups were to maintain 100% compliance with permit reporting deadlines and requirements, which they did. We exceeded the recycling rate of 60%, and more than 75% of headquarters staff participated in recycling program training. We expanded the use of nitro to continue to reduce our paper use. We increased passing rates on certification exams, and then all the sites participated in Earth Day events. And that's it.
Okay,
In a nutshell.
thank you. Was there a specific goal about the vacancy rate?
No, there was not a number attached to that.
All right.
There is though for this fiscal year.
All right. Any other questions? Anything out from the other members of the board that have heard this so far? All right, hearing none, Ms. Keddick, do you have anything else at this moment?
Not at this moment, no.
All right. Now, we have our conference room, and in the conference room we have Mr. Cummett. And sir, if you will discuss your ideas here.
Okay. Good morning. Before we go into this numbers, let me introduce the little bit of background information. As you are all aware, MES has its own personnel system, which is different from the state personnel system. It was designed and enhanced over the years because one of the mandate was the service shall establish a personnel system that is based on merit and compensates employees based on performance. The BEST program came into existence in July 31, 1999. So we are in 23 years of the BEST program. The purpose of the BEST program was that the plan shall include criteria that recognizes that an employee is eligible for a bonus by contributing to the achievement of the service's strategic business goals. What we presented was the BEST goals. The bonus plan shall also include provisions for payment of bonuses at such times and in such amounts as may be recommended by manager, executives of the service, and approved by the board. Therefore, based on that, I'm trying to present to you a BEST award plan for fiscal year 2022 for your approval. So we will go into this BEST funding. The purpose of BEST incentive payments is twofold. Number one, we set the BEST goals, which is environmental goals, and we achieve that. The second the reason is the efficient financial management. So the BEST amount depends on 2 criteria, achieving the goals and managing efficient finances. So the combination of those 2 resulted in the fiscal year 22 total of $4,577,000, which is much higher than the normal. And I'll go into the details why it is higher. But this is the basic result of our financial system. The best pool consists of fringe variance, which is the difference between the fixed rate fringe recovery that we achieve from available labor minus fringe expenses, which is $286,000 for fiscal year 22. The overhead variance is $2,628,000, which is the difference between the overhead recovery from billable labor minus overhead expenses. As we control the overhead expenses and keep it in line with the billable labor and overhead recovery, that's where that variance comes from. But if you notice, the project variance is working capital equipment fund is $1,644,000. The biggest increase in fiscal year 22 best pool is because of this $1,644,000. Our variance is working capital equipment fund is not usually that high. The main reason was that we had a service centers in fiscal year 21, and the service center were incurring losses. The service center had a more overhead labor and proportionate lower billable labor. In fiscal year 22, we switched it around, where the service center were monitored very closely, and the service centers had a more billable labor and significant reduction in the overhead labor, which resulted in the total turnaround of almost $1 million in the variances. And that is the biggest contributing factor for fiscal year 22 increase in best pool. This would not happen all the time. It would not, because we usually don't plan for this kind of a variances. Variances are a very small amount of our best pool. So this is one-time unique occurrence here. The interest income is $19,000. So the total fiscal year 22 pool for the best is $4,577,000. Usually the best is awarded about a month later than after it's approved by the board. So there will be some employees who will leave before the distribution of best amount. So we always have some best pool balance left over from previous year. So I'm including that fiscal year 21 best remaining balance of $37,992. So the total best pool becomes $4,614,000. Next slide, please.
Well, before we go to the next slide, particularly for Judge Schmolken and Secretary Neal, I want you to remember that you were on here early in that first year, FY 22, when the service center issue was coming up, and management took action aggressively to make sure that the loss that occurred in fiscal year 21 was reversed. And this is truly an indicator by $1 million swing in that loss not occurring again in that particular group, turning it around. So I wanted to support Mr. Patel and remind you of that board/management shift is a large result in this difference.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And I would like to add that in fiscal year 23, we have totally eliminated the service center. So, you know, it's totally the billable and the overhead, a clear separation. Okay, next slide, please. So as Ms. Praketic mentioned, we have achieved 98% of the best goals for fiscal year 2022. We did not achieve the sexual harassment in-person training goal, and that was beyond our control because of the COVID situation. So this recommendation that or request that I'm doing for best is based on achieving 100%. Even though we achieved 98% and 2% was beyond our control. So the total best pool is $4,614,000, and usually from the best pool, we deduct FICA and 401k, provision for FICA and 401k, so it is not a burden on fiscal year 23 when the best is distributed. So the best pool amount becomes $4,063,000. And if we award 60% of it to the best amount, which goes to all eligible employees, which is 606 at this time, then it becomes 2,439,000, and the best per employee becomes 4,025, which is higher than the last year. The last year amount was 3,200. But as I said, we have one-time gain in the variances, so that amount is higher. The best plus amount is 35.30% of it, and the amount allocated for it is 1,434,000. That will be distributed between the 606 eligible employees. All the 606 employees do not receive the best amount, but we will encourage to distribute to the higher percentage of eligible employees. Last year, the best plus was at a 42%, and this time we'll have significantly higher. At least, this is decided by managing director, but that is the recommendation that will be coming from us. And the executive payment is 4.67% of the best pool of 189,000. The executives who are managing directors for the entire year gets 100%. Who are the managing director who are part-time or a portion of the time in fiscal year 22 will get prorated. The maximum executive incentive payments will be 14%, and the same thing is true that no employee will receive a total combination of best plus best amount in excess to 14% of their salary. Very few of them will reach that kind of a limit, but we still want to restrict the executives and the employees on the same basis. Any questions on this so far?
Apparently not. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the next slide, which is the 5-year comparison. So as you can see, in fiscal year 21, the distribution of the best per teammate was 3,200. This year we are asking for 4,000, which is 800 more. If you notice that there are 680 eligible employees in 21 and 606 eligible employees in fiscal year 22. We had a very high turnover in fiscal year 22. There were 162 terminations in fiscal year 22. And out of that, 108. So we had 162 terminations. We did hire 159 employees in fiscal year 22. However, 108 employees were hired after December 31, 21, which is not part of the eligible pool. So significantly less number of employees accomplished all our work. Plus, in addition, we took over Bacterior, and therefore, those employees now are receiving a little more best because they manage all our projects very efficiently and fulfill their mission with significantly less number of employees. So the best per teammate has gone up $800. The best plus is gone up significantly, but please keep in mind that that best plus will be distributed to a high percentage of 606 eligible employees. Executive incentive is $189,000, and the total incentive payments is $4,063,000. The total revenues went down from 21 to 22, but the revenues does not have direct impact on our bottom line because majority of the revenues for capital projects are strictly passed through. So this is my calculation based on it. Historically, we awarded the best plus incentive payment and then added to the net assets. We are at a very good position in MES position with the net assets. We have totally net assets of 19 million, which includes the mandatory contingency fund, also unrestricted retained earnings. And since last year, management has decided that we do not want to increase to the net earnings because whatever earnings we have, which is eligible for best, we would like to distribute to the employees who achieve those results. So that's why we are recommending to award the full net earnings as a best plus and executive incentive payments. Any questions so far?
All right, let's go on, sir.
And this is all the fiscal year 22 earnings. So
One more slide.
Okay.
I don't think we have.
Oh,
Yeah, would you like me to say something on it? Yeah. So basically, this is the earnings for fiscal year 22. It's very unusual earnings, and we do not need any additions to our net assets. Less number of employees achieve all the results with, including taking over the significant large Back River plant, and therefore we are asking that we can board to vote on this best payout, which is a little higher but less number of employees. So everyone, all those eligible employees are receiving a little more.
All right. Well, we have heard both from Ms. Reddick and Mr. Patel, the two people who are most at hand on this. And the question is there anything else that the members of the board wish to ask or discuss with?
Judge, this is Marion. I wanted to just make a statement, and partially in response to Mr. Patel's preliminary note that the purpose of the best pool and payout is to recognize the contributions and the achievements of MES. And to that end, I really want to note for the record that at the start of each month's board meeting, I've been truly struck and inspired by the work of MES employees who are recognized each month with the Inspire Awards. And just looking over a sampling of a 6-month or so period, we've, for instance, seen extraordinary commitments by MES employees to ensure that the missions of MES and its clients are achieved. So, for instance, during an emergency, we had a single employee perform the work of 3 persons to operate 14 wastewater facilities, giving up scheduled time off to work and to ensure that these facilities were operating. We also saw 2 steam plant engineers operating the MCI Hagerstown steam plant for a full week. These 2 men worked full 12-hour day shifts and 12-hour night shifts during an entire week when 2 other engineers were out with COVID. And one of the covering engineers, he was salaried, he did not receive any overtime, and he also slept at the facility overnight at the plant to ensure that it could remain operating due to an ice storm that happened that night. We also saw 14 employees address an emergency wastewater treatment failure at ECI that was resolved in 30 hours, with some workers working a 12-hour shift and again staying overnight. We've seen MES employees exhibit extraordinary skill and initiative to save MES and its clients money. So, for instance, we had MES's IT group, which saved MES about $116,000 by developing 2 portable camera units. 3 field engineers devised a bypass water storage tank at San Mar Children's Home, resulting in a nearly $15,000 savings to the client. A maintenance worker researched a less expensive way to obtain required training, saving MES at least $5,400. That was for 2 employees, and it would be multiplied out. The savings would be multiplied out for other employees taking the training. 4 employees designed a temporary clarifier, which allowed a groundwater treatment plant at Dundalk Marine Terminal to remain operating. 7 employees designed a floating weir to handle discharges from the Masonville dredge material containment facility, which resulted in significant cost savings to the client. And lastly, MES is clearly the go-to resource when the state seeks emergency environmental assistance. So, for instance, earlier in the year, the Maryland Secretary of Agriculture called upon MES to assist with the state's avian flu crisis in Cecil County. And as a result, a senior project director rapidly responded and implemented a response plan within 48 hours over a weekend period, even though these particular issues were outside his normal area of expertise. And lastly, the Secretary of the Maryland Department of the Environment called upon MES to help resolve long-term wastewater permitting violations at the Back River Wastewater Treatment Facility. We started work sometime in April of this year, and Ms. Perketic, when did the plant achieve compliance? I think they could achieve compliance within like a 5 or 6 month period. Is that correct?
Yes, it was even sooner than that. I think we were there about 3 months, and they were already doing better.
I mean, that's an extraordinary accomplishment that was achieved under great difficulty, and not only logistically within MES, who had to reassign resources, but internally dealing with a difficult plant that MES was not familiar with. So based on the collective achievements of MES employees, and I'm only listing a few of the extraordinary achievements that have been noted to the board in a small sampling, but every month we receive information about these Inspire rewards. But based on the collective mindset of MES's workforce, which really demonstrates that the employees of MES go beyond the call of duty, they put the client's and MES's needs and objectives first, and they consistently achieve extraordinary cost savings to MES and the client. It's my personal recommendation that the board approve the requested funding of the BEST pool at the requested amount of $4,614,992. And that's all I wanted to share with the board.
Well, I think that is, thank you so much. I think that is a wonderful talk that you have made, both about the people with MES and the people that are working at MES and that are paid by MES to help make sure that our people work right and they are happy about what they're doing and that they are contented. And we have this help with the best payout to actually help that happen. So I agree with you altogether. Is there anyone else who wishes to discuss anything?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, yes, Secretary Neal.
Just a couple of things. When will the required training, which was not done, be completed? Have we set a timetable for that?
I can't answer that, but
The training is ongoing. I don't have current numbers, but they're holding at least a couple classes a month, if not more. And we've had quite a few more employees trained, and it's going to continue to be ongoing because we're bringing in all these new people.
Right. Yeah, that last caveat is probably the biggest issue with the goal, the way the goal is written, because we are currently lowering our vacancy rate, and we'll get to higher and higher number of employees, and those new employees aren't trained in sexual harassment when they are onboarded. So we didn't have to have some classes scheduled for them, but we will meet the number of employees, 680, this year.
Yeah. Well, my point being is that sometimes if you write goals a little clearer, then you know whether you've made the grade or not. And we are in a period. I have no problem with the best awards, the levels, but I don't think that what we're doing is sustainable. There are an awful lot of one-time revenues in this $4 point some million, and I think we need to spend this current fiscal year, trying to rationalize how this is done so that it's a little bit more. I mean, if you just looked at this from a business standpoint, you had much fewer employees, larger awards, which is fine, and then lower revenue. Now, I know that could be influenced by procurements that you do, but it just isn't consistent. And if you look at the 5-year history, there's some ups and downs, but I'm not so sure the ups and downs are necessarily company performance related. Let me give you just one example. There's a nasty rumor going around that there's some inflation going on. And that's going to be reflected in your payroll. It's going to be reflected in the commodities and the equipment that you purchase. And so what kind of cushion does this organization have to be able to respond to inflation? Hopefully we get it under control in the next year or two, but that could take a jump, and your revenue could go up, but it could be entirely because of inflation and not because of organizational performance. So I think we need to work on getting some goals more clearly defined, so that if somebody asks you a question, for instance, in the what do you call them, the service centers? That was fine. I think the board approved it and everything else, but it would probably make a lot of sense to have that function incorporated into the goals, so that you could say goal set, goal met, and then you'd have matching things. So there's a lot of moving numbers underneath the surface here, and if this were a company, you would be paying these bonuses out of the bottom line. And I'm not so sure that some additional interest earnings and some savings on fringe benefits and everything constitute business operations. Those are variances, fortunate variances. I don't think anybody did anything to make that happen. It just happened. And I just don't think that's a very strong way to constitute an organization's finances. Having said that, I'm that the employees have worked above and beyond. They deserve everything that we can give them. But I think one of the goals ought to be in red letters is that we should be returning to 680 employees, so that these people can have a life instead of having to work double shifts and sleep overnight and all the other things that they've had to do. We don't have enough employees to do the work that we're doing. And so that should be one of the main goals, is to improve that. I've said enough.
Well, would you like to have an answer to that? Perhaps Mr. Patel has an answer or some idea that he might be helpful to you. Mr. Patel?
Treasurer Neal's point well taken. The way the best is returned is based strictly on net earnings. Whether it is planned or it happens, the definition says whatever is net earnings for the fiscal year can only be used for that fiscal year. We will explore the ideas of it, how to stabilize that, because this may vary, if unfortunate circumstances, that increases the cost so much above and beyond what we have planned for overhead, then the employee's best will be significantly reduced. So I understand the point, and we will work on it with board, and with starting with Treasurer Neal. I'm going to meet with him and see how we can come up with some kind of a goals, and then stabilize the best plus payments. So it's not strictly dependent on the uncontrollable events, or just business happen to be good or bad. So point well taken. If you have any further questions.
Let me just say one other thing. again, if we were doing, pardon the pun, best practices, the board would sit and they'd say, okay, what kind of compensation package are we going to have for our employees? So you sort of pigeonhole a COLA, and then you say how much should we plan for the best program to be, and you do it ahead of time, saying that we think that next year we should have a $4 million BEST program. And then you measure your financial performance each month in that context. And pardon me, meaning no disrespect, this looks like we're turning the sofas upside down to get all the loose money and everything else to cobble together to see what kind of a BEST program we can do. I think we should be more deliberate about it and work it that way so that the company, the directors and the managers of this company conduct themselves in such a way throughout the fiscal year to meet those goals, rather than for it to be a look back and say, oh, gee whiz, we didn't have as much fringe benefit expense, and interest rates went up, so we made a little bit more interest money and everything else. It's all after the fact. We should be overseeing this organization going forward, on a going forward basis. And that's not meant as a criticism, it's just that I think that that's a much better way to conduct our business than to say, okay, what do we got left in the till? And the other thing is that it puts those goals, it puts it in front of your workforce, saying we gotta find a way to make $4 million because that's where the BEST program comes from. And it becomes transparent to everyone what we are intending to do. So that's my point.
All right. Do any of the other members have anything to say with regard to what the secretary has discussed or anything else? All right. Not hearing anything more. Question is on the floor. Is there a motion for the best practice FY22 best practice as it's currently is? Is there a motion on that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Ms. Wang, we can't hear you if you're.
This is Marion. I'll move to, for the motion.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any matters, any other matters to be asked or discussed? All right. Having heard all those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
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 Are there any not? Are there any who wish to be recused? All right, obviously we have a quorum, and the quorum has voted. The quorum has put in the matter, and it is now approved. Thank you all very much, and thank you everyone who has contributed to this, including the secretary. I thank you very much because you have many things to look at that are important, I think. So this will be looked upon as time goes on, I'm sure. All right, if there's no other thing, anyone have anything else to say? No? Is there any reason to adjourn? Well, hearing no reason not to adjourn, let's adjourn. Matter is adjourned. Thank you very much, and we'll see all of you on the 18th.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
Listening to something rather